We're shooting this video to help customers with the adjustment of the belt tension and tracking on their Lightning Rods mid-drives. It's a fairly sophisticated system, and if you don't get it right, you'll have belt problems. So I want to give people a little bit of information to help them stay on track with that. So first of all, this is the tensioner setup for the belt. You can see that there are two steel loops that go around the jack shaft housing. So this is the aluminum jack shaft housing. These are the adjuster rings. The rings have bolts welded to them that go through the adjuster plate, and then there are adjuster nuts that are on those bolts, and that pulls on those rings and basically tensions the belt and provides tracking for it. So the right adjuster here, that actually tensions the belt. So when you tighten the nut down, this is a lock nut, so the adjuster nut is below it there. You loosen the lock nut, and then in order to make the belt tighter, you turn this nut down. That pulls up on the ring, which tensions the belt. And the belt should be taut, but not, not absolutely. Let me get here so you can see the deflection on the belt. So there should be some movement in the belt. It shouldn't be completely rock hard, because that puts too much load on the bearings and the pulley, and it'll make the drive run noisy. But you certainly don't want it floppy. The belt should be straight. It shouldn't have a bow to it because it's loose, and it shouldn't be floppy, but there should be a little bit of deflection like that. And when you're tightening the adjuster nuts on the top, if you pay attention while you're tightening it, you can start to feel the resistance of the belt when you're tightening it. It'll start to pull back, and you don't want to continue tightening after you feel the tension of the belt. You're making it overly tight. So this is the tension adjuster, and this is the tracking adjuster. So you want to pull them both up together, and you want to keep the jack shaft level, because if the jack shaft, let's say you start to pull the jack shaft up too much with the tensioner bolt, the belt will start to track downhill. So if there's a slope to the jack shaft like that, the belt is going to track this way, and it's going to rub on this flange, and that'll wear the side of the belt, and it'll also make it run noisy. If you get the jack shaft too high on this end and it tips like that, the belt is going to run off the side of the pulley. So if your belt is tracking off of the pulley, you want to lower this side. And the easiest way to lower that side, you notice that this side has a nut underneath the adjuster bar, and this one does not. And that's because on this side, when you tighten this nut, which actually is the same direction as loosening the one above it, so when you're running it up clockwise, it's going to push against the underside of the adjuster plate and raise this end of the jack shaft housing. When you tension the belt is resisting. It's pulling down, and this actually acts as a pivot point, like a teeter-totter. So what happens is that you're tensioning it here, but the pulley is pulling down. So what happens is it teeter-totters this end up. If you don't use this adjuster nut to keep that end of the jack shaft down, it's going to have a tendency to just want to do that, and then it's going to track off the end of the pulley. But basically, you want to keep the bolts pretty much the same length of exposure. You want to have the plates about the same place underneath. You want to keep it basically level. It's safe to start. You can actually hand turn the drive and watch the belt. If it's way off, it's going to start to walk even hand turning it. But once you see that you have everything basically level, it should be safe to run the drive, and then you can watch to see whether it's scrubbing on the flange or starting to run off the end, and you can fine tune it once you have the adjustment correct. If you have one with lock nuts, you just tighten the lock nuts down. There are large lock rings on either side of the plate that are on the threaded ends of the housing. You should use something like this drift to tap those lock rings loose to make the adjustments, and then once you have everything all adjusted, tighten them back down again, because that helps to hold the adjustment and keep the drive in place. So that is the high points of walking through it, and hopefully that will be enough to get you started in the right direction.